Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Business Council of Westchester's virtual political leadership series. I hope that you and your families are all safe and healthy. It's the most important thing. At the Business Council of Westchester, we have been working tirelessly on behalf of the business community in Westchester and the region to help support you as we all go through this challenging time. It's my pleasure to introduce to you today our sponsors: Burke Rehabilitation Hospital, Empire City Casino at MGM Resorts, Greenberg Treurig, and Levitt First Insurance. I need to get that off the screen here. Whoops, wrong thing. I think I'm back. That's as technical as I get, everybody. And it's certainly safe to say that the entire world has watched how Governor Cuomo and his administration have handled the coronavirus pandemic. The Cuomo administration has been working 24/7 to help protect the residents of New York State and begin to develop the roadmap to help the state reemerge from this crisis. It is no surprise to us at the Business Council of Westchester that Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul has been Governor Cuomo's partner in navigating New York through this crisis. Her commitment and her devotion, which we have seen over the many years we've worked with you, Lieutenant Governor, to all New Yorkers and the New York business community, has always been her top priority. And especially now as we watch you tirelessly working with the community, with New York State, you've been amazing. And I know that the governor will be counting on the Lieutenant Governor's business and governmental experience as together they begin the process of having New York reopen for businesses over the next few months. The Business Council of Westchester is proud of the many economic development projects that we have, and we will continue to work with the Lieutenant Governor. Before I formally turn it over to you, Lieutenant Governor, we do want to say that we will be joined next week by Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins on May 6th at 1 o'clock. On May 28th at 10 a.m., we will have Attorney General Letitia James. And on June 16th, we will have a debate for the candidates running for the 17th Congressional District. So you do see that John Ravitz and our team are quite busy and engaged and continuing to bring our members up-to-date advocacy issues. Lieutenant Governor Hochul, thank you for being with us this afternoon for this period of time. I know you have a short period of time. Thank you for giving the Westchester business community the opportunity to hear from you. And I'll turn it over to you now.
Well, thank you, Marcia. And first of all, I treasure our friendship. You've been there for me since I've been Lieutenant Governor over 5.5 years now, and welcomed me on countless occasions to speak to your members, but also to delve deeply into issues that we agree are so important, like workforce development. I think it was just about a year ago, we did a great forum on childcare in your offices and really opened up the conversation about the responsibility of businesses and how they can make life a little bit easier for their employees. So you've always been at the forefront of addressing the challenges facing the business community in Westchester and throughout the state of New York. And I also enjoy welcoming you and your members to Albany when you make your trips up the Hudson to Lobby Day or whatever you call it. But it's just also a nice chance to get reacquainted with our friends in the business community. And also to thank John for the great program that he continues to work on, and Amanda and others who are part of your great team. So what I want to do is just take a few minutes to talk about where I see us heading with the governor's leadership, which has been exceptional in terms of getting us to a safe place. The numbers that we were looking at just a few short weeks ago were heading in the wrong direction. They're heading upward very quickly. And because of what New Yorkers have done, what our businesses have done, our citizens have done, that we are in a far better place now, even though it seems like it's been an eternity, they were scenarios where we wouldn't even be talking about reopening for months to come. And so let's applaud that positive development. And no one knows more than the people of Westchester, which had the national and global spotlight on you when you had our first major hotspot in New Rochelle, and how everyone came together and really just made sure that we were able to contain that virus in that community. And there's a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety that was spreading, but we saw how the people of Westchester handled that. And it really became a model on how we can address this in other communities, and gave us confidence that if we do the right things, we socially distance, we close the businesses, except for those that are essential, that we can actually start to control at least the spread of something that people thought one time was uncontrollable. So we're in a better place. The governor, I hope you're watching him every single day, because he gives a very clear-eyed view of where we are that day and where we're going. And I think people all across this country appreciate the candor and the passion that he brings to this. And what I do is I work hand in hand with the business community in helping him develop the strategies that are going to be so important going forward. And what we're doing is trying to have uniform standards that'll be applicable to all the industry. So I'm presently gathering industry standards that are proposed by people in hospitality and restaurants, real estate, commercial work, even manufacturing and construction sites. There's so many, clergy. What's going to happen when people gather in, for religious services again? There are so many dynamics to this, but we're in that information gathering stage and have been for some time. So to the businesses that are listening, regardless of your sector, make sure that your industry proposals are getting to us, and that we have a chance to put it into that blender as we put it all together, because I'm working closely with what is known as New York Forward. And this is an initiative that the governor just announced with representatives from various industries and geographically diverse, headed up by Bill Mulrow, his former secretary, and former secretary Steve Cohen. So we're working in partnership with them as a feeder to a lot of the data that this entity is going to be looking at, but also the Reopen New York initiative is going to have a direct involvement from County Executive George Latimer and others in the downstate region, talking about reopening, but also reimagining what's going to happen elsewhere. So there's a lot of entities involved, which sounds a little bit confusing, but my role as Lieutenant Governor continues. I still represent the entire state, and I'm on calls with everywhere from here to Long Island a couple of days ago, the North Country Chamber, I think a day or two ago. And I want to stay connected because I also still serve as the chair of all the regional economic development councils, which is our platform for engaging the local community to work on investments in strategic industry clusters. And we all know how successful that's been. But simultaneously, the governor has asked me, because I live in Buffalo and have been camped out here, to help reimagine how we can reopen places like Buffalo, and use that really as a template where the numbers are lower in Western New York and in upstate New York. Numbers are lower and more manageable in terms of realizing we will have hospital capacity, even if there is a slight spike, so we're managing that. And what we come up with there in terms of industries to open, what the timetable is, how we monitor success, or is there a setback based on the spread continuing after a 2-week period. I'll be able to look at regionally what happens in an area that has a large city, has a suburban area, as well as joined by rural areas. So we're creating templates as well that we think would be applicable to other areas, but also recognizing the individual differences between the regions. So the governor is taking a regional approach to reopening the economy. So that's what we're looking at, and I'm happy to take your questions at this time. And know this is an intense time, but I'd rather be a New Yorker at this time than anybody else in the country, because I believe that we have the leadership that is going to get us to a far safer place together than we would have been under different leadership. And so again, I'm proud to be part of this administration, and really pleased to be able to just connect with people like yourself, Marcia, everyone in the Westchester Business Council, and a lot of people given thought to how their businesses can reopen, what that looks like. And that's what we want to have. And I'm going to hold every business, and as the governor, to really the gold standard, because it is in all of our interest to create an environment in the workplace, whether it's a large manufacturing facility or it's a small restaurant. If you don't instill the confidence in your workers and in the public, if it's a public facing business, then it won't work. And that takes the planning that we're doing now and asking businesses to prepare for that inevitability, because we will reopen. but it's all going to hinge on how prepared you are to ensure that your workplace is safe, that you can have the proper social distancing in place, the protective equipment, you taking temperatures when people walk in the door. A lot of protocols will need to be in place, disinfecting every surface, an elevator or break rooms. So we know that it has to be done. And I encourage everybody to stockpile your PPE and start getting ready for this. And I don't want to be negative because I'm really feeling good about where we are. But all these preparations can also help us if we have a second wave in the fall, which is everyone's worst nightmare. But we cannot control this virus any more than we already have. And if it comes back, we'll be in a much better place to address the challenges of that time, having been through it now. So thank you. And I'll be open to take any questions that you have, Marcia.
Thank you. Thank you. And if anyone has any questions, we have a short period of time with Lieutenant Governor, but we do have some time for questions, and we do have some to begin. I do want to point out, Lieutenant Governor, that I'm proud to be on the executive committee of our Regional Economic Development Council, and I know we are busy working on a plan for the Hudson Valley region. At the Business Council of Westchester, we just announced a Westchester County Economic Development Recovery Task Force, and we have many different sectors on it, and we will include more of our members in working groups. So we will be getting you recommendations. We have a robust set of recommendations from the construction and development group that are ready to go when the time is right. And I'll also say I've never been more proud to be a New Yorker than these days. I'm always proud to be a New Yorker, but these days I'm really proud. So let me ask, as the New York State on pause regulations are set to expire on May 15th, what are some of the key issues and challenges that you and the governor will be working on to allow some regions of the state to reopen?
Well, it's going to be a dual effort. One is that we are not going to lose sight of the public health dynamic here, and that means the continual monitoring of numbers by region and identifying the trends. Are we seeing 14 days of decline in areas? Are the numbers very tiny to start out with? In some counties, we have 30 positive cases, no one hospitalized, versus areas where the numbers are still trending upward. So we're going to continue that monitoring to make sure that we feel confident, even if there is a date that's coming and it's May 15th, that we're in a good place in terms of the various regions that we're prepared to say can open. But opening is going to mean likely those easier industries, that many of which have already been open to some extent. For example, manufacturing. In Western New York, 70% of the manufacturing facilities are still open. And so they've already had to prepare their work site to make sure that it was safe and it are adhering to high standards. They just want to bring in more employees to reopen lines that were not deemed essential. Same thing with construction. Our construction has been going on in many places. It's related to public health and safety, construction of roads and bridges, or is it housing, is it building affordable housing? So
Affordable housing
that have been defined as essential are already operational. So we feel most confident in those because they've been successfully functioning without us seeing any spike in cases or any dereliction in terms of what they're supposed to be doing. So we'll build on that to expand those. And those are also big job creation areas. I mean, those are a lot of people unemployed right now in those two areas. But independent of that, we'll be also looking at businesses that again have approached us and shown us the standards that they're willing to assume and prove that you are not, if you were not in the initial essential category, you're pretty close. And this is a service, a function that the public relies upon, and it's been missing and necessary, but that's going to be juxtaposed against the risk. We have to always consider the risk of exposure when we're balancing how important and significant a particular business is. Everybody thinks their business is the most important. I understand that. And they all fit into this puzzle that creates a strong economy. We want to get that every piece of that puzzle back working together again to create a better picture. But we're going to be taking it slowly. Again, putting on the pause then after the first launch of new businesses open, slow it down and watch it, monitor very closely, have regional, if you will, captains and who will be giving real-time data to make sure that there's no change. If we all of a sudden start seeing that there's now an outbreak in an area where there wasn't before we allowed these businesses to open, we have to be ready to shut it down right away. We cannot afford to miscalculate on the right timing. And so we're going to take these small steps forward. And at some point, it's going to be easier to just open up more widely, no doubt about it. But we can't get this wrong and have any setbacks.
Absolutely. So since you have held such a leadership position in the state's regional councils and the DRIs, the Downtown Revitalization Initiatives, what do you think economic development in New York State will look like after the coronavirus crisis has ended?
That's a great question. And what that ties into is our Reimagine New York initiative, which gives us this opportunity to say, you know what, we didn't ask for this. This has been brutal. It knocked us back. But why not rethink what we have taken for granted in the past? For example, does every one of your employees need to work in your office? How productive have people been working from homes? And is that giving them more flexibility where if there's 8 hours of work that needs to be accomplished and you're a mom with a young baby or a child that's homesick from school, are you able to now have the flexibility because you've established the technology in your home? You've figured out how to do a Zoom conference call, which we never even heard of before. So we're all adapting. And I think that employers and our society and really the economy, if we approach it in an enlightened way and say, what are some of the positives that have come out? Does that give people more flexibility to have careers that they wouldn't have had if they now can, as I did when I had children at home? I was an attorney for my sister's tech business. I used to look at contracts from 8 p.m. until 2 a.m. That was my window of doing my legal work when the kids are in bed. And if that's okay as an employer, that's going to work better for a family as well as the productivity of the employer. So let's also talk about how childcare fits into this and workforce development and how telehealth is an important dynamic. Maybe we can have a healthier population when people don't have to wait in a doctor's office or more apt to get a televisit checkup. What does that do for education? Can we reopen more opportunities for people to have higher education or higher skills training for the jobs that are there? If they can have distance learning and not have to commute to a place, and if they've got a part-time job trying to go to a community college, but they now don't have to be in a car to go there or public transportation. So there's ways that we can rethink, and using the regional councils as really the vehicle to entertain these new concepts and to come up with strategies that really fit into that region's original industry clusters and the original strengths that they bring to it. So this is really a great opportunity for us to rethink what we've always taken for granted, reimagine it in a better way that ends up with better outcomes for all New Yorkers.
Now, I see several questions coming on, but I do want to ask you to just address how New York State is thinking about helping the small business community in particular.
No, this breaks my heart. I got my start by helping small businesses start, including my mother's little flower shop. And again, my sister's tech business that ended up being a very large tech business, but started with 2 people. And I ran for office starting a business association to help businesses that were really knocked backwards when the Bethlehem steel plant closed in my area and thousands of jobs left and people left the community. So my heart is with small businesses and the risks that they took to even start in the first place and how many of them are really on the margins. So we are making sure that every small business understands the federal dollars that are available to them, that they have for a long time not had that kind of additional assistance available. And to the extent that the money ran out for a little while, that was very bad, but we were able to push to make sure that there's more money available. And let's make sure it gets in the hands of small businesses. I mean, it is appalling to know that large corporations, and yeah, there's large corporations that may be struggling. I get that, but they're definitely going to do better than a tiny mom and pop business or a new startup, a tech startup. They put all their life savings into their business and they're barely hanging on. They're the ones that are supposed to get the small business assistance. But also as far as what the state did, we're continuing to support the small business development centers to give resources and information and to alleviate some of the burden that's on them, allowing the collection of sales tax not to have to be, if it's turned in late, it's okay. There's not going to be penalties or fees. We're going to delay the collection of that if necessary, if a business needs that. Eliminating the time, the deadline for paying your taxes, and a lot of other areas. We're just trying to say where is there a lot of burden on our business community right now, and what can we take off their backs while they're trying to think about reopening and getting back on their feet again. So it is a huge priority of ours, and I think that's going to be a focus of the regional councils, and our overall attention is to look at the businesses that we've helped through that process and make sure first that they're the ones that are going to survive. We've already invested in them. We want to make sure that they prosper. And a lot of those small businesses really are going to need our help.
Great, thank you. John Ravitz is on as well. John's our Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, and I know, John, you have some questions as well. John there?
Yes, Lieutenant Governor, how are you? Thank you again for all the work that you're doing for the people of the state of New York. I know you're on a time frame, so we have just a few questions that I will try to get to. Will New York State be providing assistance towards funding mandates on businesses to assist with physical changes needed to reopen? And will the state assist with access to presently unavailable disinfecting supplies?
That's a challenge everyone has. I understand that, and the governor has addressed that in terms of the healthcare facilities, but I don't know that there's been thought given to making sure that facilities have that. We'd like them to have it, but this is another area where we are looking for financial assistance from the federal government. And part of me is not holding our breath, and the other part is know that we're not going to make it if we don't have the ability to get more assistance from the federal government at this time, for us to be able to get down to local governments as well as to small businesses. And this is absolutely what we want to be doing. And I would recommend that people work very hard, and I think our business community leaders can help us identify supply chains and opportunities for us to really stockpile on PPE and disinfectants. And that's important. And a lot of businesses will have to have that in place before they reopen, no doubt about it.
Lieutenant Governor, I know you and the governor are looking at reopening the state on a regional basis, and the upstate community, obviously, the region is going to be one of the first. Again, what are some of the key indicators that you all will be looking at as this reemergence happens upstate that then we can follow downstate?
We'll be looking at rate of transmission. We'll be looking to see whether or not by opening up, even turning the levers a little bit open more than they are right now, where people have been really good about social distancing and staying away from their workplaces unless they're essential. We'll be watching closely to see once those businesses have been given the green light or the yellow light to proceed with caution, and that they have all the precautions in place that were agreed to before they were allowed to reopen, that their industry has provided to us and we've accepted, or if it's an individual unique business, that they get the clearance. And we'll be monitoring whether or not they adhere to that. If people are not adhering to that and it's not safe in the workplace and there's an outbreak, that's not going to bode well for our confidence in doing the same elsewhere. So we want to get this right, and that's why industry associations that represent all kinds of work are important to us. I've been speaking to many, just talked to Dennis this morning, and other entities that are saying, well, what do you want us to do to make sure that our environment is safe? And we'll provide that. But it's helpful for us to hear from the industry. You know what you can do to make a hotel pristine and give people confidence that the common areas are going to be safe before we open those doors, and how many times you're going to clean those rooms more than you may have, and how much human contact you're going to come into. This is a chance to rethink our industries as well. Just hotels as an example. I mean, maybe you're going to check in and get your room key, on your, like you get a pass, like you get your airport pass, your boarding pass. And maybe you're going to get your room key remotely, so you don't have to deal with a person at the front desk necessarily. So everybody should be thinking about how you can limit human contact in this early stage, make sure there's protective equipment available for customers and your employees, and then the cleanliness of your common areas. So we'll be watching all that. But John, absolutely, and this is going to be so critical. We start opening up, the numbers start going up, we're going to have to reassess. And the governor in his conversation today talked about Singapore and other places where they start opening up, and we'll see what happens in these states that have opened. Is there a change, or is it mostly a place at New York where we've already had a very high number of cases, particularly downstate? Are they spreading upstate now just at a different rate? There's just so much. It's like having a control room. Like for a NASA mission, you have to really see so many of the dials and all the dynamics that are going on, and make sure you don't open up something too soon. So I wish I could just I'm one who likes to just tell it like it is. We're opening on this date. You need to do this. Hey, let's go. We just can't. We are figuring out a pandemic in live time, unprecedented effort, but we're doing the very best we can.
And Lieutenant Governor, we can say at the Business Council of Westchester and the almost 200 people that are on this call today that we are here with you, and we look forward to working with you and the governor and the governor's team to determine how to reopen we're eager to reopen, and we want to do it safely. We want to be very conscious of the health of our customers and our employees, and we have the best and the brightest and the most out of the box thinkers that are with us and giving us input all the time. We have such great confidence in you, Lieutenant Governor, as we always have. And you're so gracious to take time out of your busy schedule to talk to us today. I hope this won't be the first time this year. I hope you'll be with us often. And I know we have a very open line of communication. And we thank you, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, for everything that you've done. I want to also again thank our sponsors, Burke Rehabilitation Hospital, Empire City Casino by MGM Resorts, Levitt First Insurance, and Greenberg Traurig for their support and the support of all our amazing members as the Business Council of Westchester works on behalf of the business community in our county. So thank you all. Have a great day. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor.